welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of Talkin Baseball. For those of you who set your DVRs to such things, Season 2, Episode 5. And I'm Jason Smith, and as always,
I'm Pete Lincoln.
And today we are going to talk about, because it's actually very relevant given what happened to the Red Sox last week, we're going to talk about some of the rules of the game and how not many have changed over the years, but in the last couple there have been some very significant rule changes that have affected the game tremendously.
We went to visit the Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, where they have old-time baseball played, like it was played in the very end of the 19th century. And you can sit and watch that game, and it's almost identical to the way it's played now. The bases are 90 feet apart, the pitching for 60 feet 6 inches.
Yeah.
There's home runs, there's the rules, balls and strikes, number of balls and strikes, everything almost identical. And what's remarkable about that is 125 years ago, this sport has endured generation after generation with almost no changes. Changes in scoring, perhaps, or changes in strategies, changes in the nature of the game, but the actual basic rules of play have stayed pretty much the same. Football changes almost yearly.
Every year.
Basketball throws in the three-point shot, and the dunks are allowed, and so that's changed drastically.
Sure.
But all I can think of is really the designated hitter that came in 1973, and the change of the height of the mound in '69, when they dropped it from 15 to 10 inches. And both of those was because of the dominance of pitching.
It was to create a more balanced game.
There was no offense anymore. People were just sick of the 2-0, 1-0 games.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, there have been almost no changes until very, very recently.
And we're going to get into some of those in a minute, but first, we have some trivia for you, as always. So,
Our trivia tonight is courtesy...
It's a video daily double.
This is courtesy of Rich Letarte. Some of you old-timers on Talkin Baseball will remember Rich Letarte did the first show of this series when we interviewed about his book, That One Glorious Season. And he brought us this picture of Eddie Gaedel. Tell them who Eddie Gaedel is.
Eddie Gaedel was a one-time pinch hitter for the St. Louis Browns, who are owned by Bill Veeck. And Bill Veeck never passed up a chance to entertain the crowd. The Browns were horrible. They were renowned for being the worst team in the American League. And so we had to drum up ways to get fannies into the seats to come see the Browns. So he came up with the idea of having a pinch hitter named Eddie Gaedel as a midget, who came up just as a stunt for one at-bat.
It was the second game of a doubleheader against the White Sox. And he came walking out, and of course the White Sox manager had a heart attack looking at this guy. But he had a genuine Major League contract, and he came up to bat, and of course walked on 4 pitches. Our trivia question is this, because Eddie Gaedel is pretty well known among baseball fans. Our trivia question is, what number was Eddie Gaedel wearing on his back? If you know this, you know you can join our show, you can take over.
Yes, you're better than us. And actually that did lead to a rule change, that it had to be a player on the active roster to appear in a game.
Well, he was. He had a Major League contract, and they, contrary to what everybody thinks, they did not outlaw midgets.
No, not at all.
He was outlawed because he was a sideshow.
Yeah.
And I've seen in Baseball Digest a listing of the shortest baseball players ever. Yeah. And there have been a couple as short as 5'1".
Well, Jose Altuve's 5'6" right now.
There's quite a few between 5'1" and 5. There was a guy named Freddie Patek.
Yes.
It was 5'5", and we once saw him hit 3 home runs in a game against the Red Sox when he was playing for the Angels.
I think he had 8 in his career, and 3 were in that one game.
With a monster. So there have been some short players, but this guy was 3'6".
So ponder that one while we go through some of the rules that we're going to discuss here.
And these 3 have been pretty drastic and very recent, all 3 of them, and all brought about primarily because of some specific occurrence.
Right. So remember, we always say this every time we do the show, baseball is a business. It is about money. We're going to talk about how sports are wonderful at the end of the show, but what it comes down to is it's a big money maker. And players, as a part of that money machine, make obscene amounts of money. And so it's up to the owners and the league itself, actually, to protect those star players who are making $20 to $30 million a year. And all of these rules came about to protect the superstar players.
And like all sports, it's based on regional pride. You root for the Red Sox because you live in Boston. It's hard to find a fan who roots for the Padres here, who's brought up and raised in New Braintree.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. And unless it goes, sometimes in a World Series, you will follow a team because you like that particular league.
Sure.
But otherwise, it depends on regional pride. And so a team is following. When a team wins the World Series, the city goes berserk. It's wonderful for its economy, for its pride, what it does to the city. You know, when Boston won the World Series in 2004, which it hadn't done for 86 years, there were 3 million people came in there and watched a boat go by.
And there was an afterglow in the city for months. For months, the entire city was in a great mood because the curse was broken.
People running out to graveyards to put the pennants on their grandparents' graves.
God, yeah, my wife and I were in Disneyland, Disney World in Orlando right after the World Series ended, and people wearing the Red Sox jerseys in Florida, going nuts and waving at us and everything. It was amazing.
That's what the business depends on. And it depends on having some kind of balance between all those teams. If some team is going to always lose.
Yeah. The Browns.
Like the St. Louis Browns always lost. Yeah. But it's also good to have key franchises. That's why there's a lot of Yankee fans. I've seen maps where they say county by county across the country who votes, who supports who.
Yeah.
And the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers,
and the Cardinals.
All have national followings, people who follow them all over the place.
And some of that is from the old school before, in the very early days of TV, you'd only get to see the good teams on TV.
That's right.
So the teams that made the World Series, actually, a lot of the time were the only teams you ever saw play, so people naturally gravitated to those teams.
It was the same way when I was a kid. The only football teams you could watch were the Giants and the Browns.
Sure.
So everybody's a Giants or a Browns fan.
Mm-hmm. And even now there are still tons of Giants fans in here, even though the Patriots are great right now. Tons of Giants fans live here just for that reason.
But now what's happened with the MLB channels, you can watch every team and follow every team. So it's important that every team is worth watching.
Yeah.
They have special Sunday night games and Monday night games all set up for that regional system. And so they want to make sure that there are rules that protect the players.
The star players
in
particular.
So the first clip of the night is going to show a terrible collision that took place when Pete Rose, in an All-Star game, which is an exhibition.
Yes, it is.
There's no money on the line,
right.
And there wasn't home field advantage.
Yeah, it was playing for pride.
Put his head down and crashed into poor Ray Fosse, who was in his one and only All-Star game, dislocated his shoulder and essentially put him out of the business.
Yeah, he never was the same player after that.
Okay, so here's an example of a collision at home plate.
Pete Rose played baseball at one speed, and that gear was on full display in 1970. The game was tied in the bottom of the 12th when Charlie Hustle rounded third looking to score on a Jim Hickman single. And suddenly, Ray Fosse was all that stood between Rose and a National League win. The collision left Fosse with a separated shoulder, and Rose unapologetic about his effort to win.
I did start to slide, but he left me no recourse because there was no place to slide, and there's no sense in ever sliding into a bag if you can't get the bag.
See what we mean?
Yes. A little bone shaking, isn't it? But keep in mind, in the 70s especially, when this happened, that was the way it was. It was a sort of rough and tumble game, and guys slid into each other and ran over each other. That was just the way it was.
There was no free agency then, so
Yes.
the players were not making the kind of money they are now.
No.
Players are much more dispensable than they are now, too.
And it was much more of a team-oriented game. I don't know if there was a thing on the other night about Jerry Remy was talking about when he first got traded to the Red Sox, and he was out talking to Mickey Rivers, who had just gotten traded to the Yankees, and they were on the Angels together back in the day. And Carlton Fisk came up to him and said, "Yeah, we don't talk to those guys. That doesn't happen anymore because of free agency." But up through the 70s, when free agency really started to take hold, you were on your team for life. And that's how rivalries started.
Right.
So,
Well, now, Big Papi makes out with everybody in the base paths on the other team. It's unbelievable. Like every single guy's a buddy. It's like they're in a big money-making corporation together. And so Red Sox Yankees is Nothing like it used to be.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to sit in the stands in the 70s.
Oh, God.
Mickey Rivers
Oh,
days,
God.
and Greg Nichols days, and Bill Lee.
Yeah.
It was just fierce. Now you go, and it's just...
What's the Yankees? Whatever.
Yankees.
Whatever.
So a lot of that has been lost because it's become a big corporation operation, you know?
And so the rule about the home plate collision came about just a couple of years ago because of the Giants catcher Buster Posey, who is the reigning best, without question, the best catcher in the major leagues right now. And what happened is, maybe we can show the clip, I'm sure we will,
Yeah.
and he was run over in a play very similar to that. And he was hurt, and he was out for quite a while, and Giants fans went crazy.
You notice when you watch this clip, for years, catchers have always thrown one foot out in front of the plate, one leg out in front of the plate, hoping that when the guy slides in, he'll deflect him away from the plate.
Yeah.
Well, if a guy 225 pounds is head firsting into your leg, it tends to detach your leg from the rest of your body.
Sherholtz has the best arm. Fairly shallow, more center than right. Cousins is going to test him. Posey can't handle it, and Posey gets clobbered. Posey is hurt, and he never caught the ball. The Marlins are back ahead, and the Giants' only focus now is Buster Posey.
It looked like head-to-head contact.
Dave Gressner and assistant trainer Mark Bruce back out there with Bruce Bochy hovering.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened to him. And so here's the rule change.
So the actual rule, instead of, and it used to be legal that the catcher could actually stand in front of the plate even without the ball, too. So to cut down on collisions and things like this.
You mentioned before a league of their own.
Yes, in a league of their own, the Rockford Peaches are now the champions because it is now illegal to run over a catcher like that.
Yeah.
So next time you watch it, it's also illegal to catch in your hat, by the way, like Madonna does, but that's another rule for another show. So that's two in a league of their own for you.
But it was perfectly. There's a guy named Clint Courtney used to be.
Yeah.
They called him the Toy Bulldog. They
Yeah.
played for the infamous Browns that we were
Yes.
talking about.
Yeah.
Would just stand there like a hydrant in front of the plate, with or without the ball, and you had to knock him off the plate before
Yeah.
you could score, and that was okay.
Yeah.
And there was some great collisions that happened there.
The Fisk-Pinella fight is the all-timer.
Yeah.
Fisk got the ball and Pinella just ran over him, and they just started punching each other right in the dirt.
Just rolled around. So the collisions at home plate were legendary for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
They can't exist anymore. Here's the rule.
Yep. The rule now is a runner attempting to score may not deviate from his direct pathway to the plate in order to initiate contact with the catcher. In other words, you can't run into the catcher anymore as a runner. You have to go for the plate. And if in the judgment of the umpire, a runner attempting to score initiates contact, the umpire shall call the runner out. And in such circumstances, the ball is dead and the base runners have to return. And likewise, on the other side, the catcher cannot stand in the way of the plate. You cannot make the runner deviate from his path to home plate. So instead of standing in front, you almost have to stand to the side and do a sweep tag as the runner is going by you.
And you can't get near the plate if you don't have the ball.
No.
You have to wait till the ball gets to you, and then you can tag it. So you see exactly. You see the catcher take about a step ahead of time, try to get possession of the ball, and swing around. Maybe put his foot on the plate. They might do that because they could lose their foot and
Right.
their whole leg.
And once you have the ball, then you can get in the way. But if you don't have the ball, and especially this is pertinent to pitchers too. I don't know if you remember back in '86, Al Nipper got his knee turned into hamburger on one of these plays at the plate, where he was covering home plate and the guy slid directly into his knee, and he was out for 2 months.
Spike side, right up his
So what this rule does is it cuts down on plays like that to keep the players on the field.
Right.
That's essentially what it is. It's to protect the players. And a lot of the old school crowd like Pete Rose says, "Oh, the players today are soft and whatever."
Right.
But it's a different game, and
Right.
and like we said, it's a business.
And this has happened in football, the concussion business,
Sure.
all the different ways not to hurt people, which was just part of the game.
Yep.
When this game was initiated, it was played by tough Irish people.
Yeah.
And it was a rough, tumble, hard-nosed game, and figuring out ways to clobber people and take advantage. But the game has become more genteel as it has become more televised and available to everybody. The players are supposed to be role models. I know any number of elderly ladies who love to watch the games. They don't want to see this kind of play anymore. But like you said, to the old-timers, to the old school, it's made it a softer game.
Yeah, and it's that way in every sport. Look at hockey. Hockey used to be all about punching each other in the mouth and teeth falling out, and that's completely changed.
No helmets, no masks.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You wear a mask. The first guy that wore a mask was criticized for being a sissy.
Being too soft, right? And now you have to wear a helmet, and they have these big helmets almost for the goalies. So it's every sport that's become that way because it's a multi-billion dollar business. So.
Okay, so that's the first one, the outlawing of the catches. Now, what happened, again, you could talk about this play that just happened very recently in the World Series, at second base.
Oh, sure. Yeah, what happened is, this is known as the Chase Utley play.
That's right.
Chase Utley
Who was just an average journeyman.
Yeah. He had some good years with the Phillies, but he's definitely on the back nine of his career.
And he wasn't a household word.
Yeah,
No.
and he was traded to the Dodgers, and he went into second base and to break up a double play, and he just went right into the Mets shortstop, and he was out for the whole rest of the playoffs.
He broke his leg.
Yeah, broke his leg right on the and I cannot remember the shortstop's name. It's live television, so this happens. But the Mets shortstop was out for the whole rest of the playoffs, and again, Mets fans, and I'm friends with a couple of them, were outraged, and they wanted Utley thrown out of the league and everything for an illegal slide.
Take a look at this.
Jason hits it toward third, backing up on his right. They get one at second. How about that slide by Utley? But the Mets are still able to turn the double play. 5-4-3, and the side is retired. No runs, 2 hits, and a heck of a collision at second base. Chase Utley going in strong to take out Ruben Tejada, and the side is retired.
Now you can see by this clip that it wasn't really an intention to get it. It was the way they played the game. Going in hard to second base is classic. Any number of players are famous for going hard into second base.
Pete Rose, Willie Wilson.
Pete Rose will slide bad into hard into second base and get in fights out there. 2 or 3 times they just ended up punching each other.
They did the rolling block. You wouldn't even slide. You just roll right into the guy.
Or what they allowed the second baseman to what they called the neighborhood play.
Right.
It became somewhere where he could see second base when he got the ball.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes they were yards away, just throw it to first in a double play because they weren't going to get killed. Or they mastered the art like Pedroia. Sometimes you watch him, he can jump over the incoming runner.
Right.
But if the incoming runner is only sort of crouched and throws a full-fledged block on him, he'll go head over bandbox.
So plus Pedroia is only 5'7", so it doesn't help either.
So they've changed the rule now.
It's twofold. It's a rule that's partly on the fielder and partly on the runner too. So as a runner, you have to attempt to go to the base. Right. Now, what used to happen is, and not to speak ill of the guy or have all the respect for him in the world, but Derek Jeter was the worst offender of this. Is that as the shortstop or second baseman would come across the second base bag and make a throw to first, instead of sliding towards the bag, the runner would slide towards the player trying to make the throw. Jeter almost put Nomar in the outfield a couple times back, and they never called it. And coincidentally, the year Jeter retired is the year they decided to enforce it. Again, not a conspiracy theory, but
yes, it is.
Yeah, well, yes, it is. But he was the master of it. Jeter would just go after guys way off the bag, and so they changed the rule to protect the fielder that you have to slide into the bag rather than the fielder.
You see him reaching with one finger trying to touch the base or his toes or the grass in the outfield. There's 2 bodies lying over it.
But on the fielder's side, there's no such thing as the neighborhood play anymore. You have to be on the bag.
In fact, with the replay, they'll check to see if he tipped it or not.
Sure.
So if you missed it by this much, they'll call it.
Sure. So it's twofold. It falls on the runner and the fielder for a rule like this. And again, it's to protect the players.
Yeah. What happens is they usually won't even try to break up the double play.
Yeah.
I've seen times of Poppy at the 6 steps just peels
Oh,
out to
sure.
the right, just not even bother to try. There was some notorious things. Frank Robinson was notorious for crashing into the second baseman,
Yeah.
standing up, and I can't remember again the name of the shortstop, somebody in the National League was sick of getting bowled over by him, threw the ball underhand to first base and caught him right between the eyes. He was out for weeks.
Yep.
You're going to come into me like that, see ya.
Yep.
And that was perfectly okay.
Yep.
It's just taken a lot of the rough and tumble out of the game again,
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
drastic.
Yep.
And back in the old days, you see these games played. I wonder if they changed the dearboard just to keep up.
I don't know. Yeah. But you know, another guy to watch who did that all the time was George Brett.
Oh.
George Brett used to run into second base screaming his head off.
Yeah.
Then they'd say, "Oh my God, this guy's crazy," and he'd roll block into the guy and get in his face and everything. You can't do that anymore.
Well, the real tough competitors that you know. There were a lot of guys that were notorious for coming into second base hard.
Yeah.
And the purpose was to break up the double play. You're supposed to do that.
Sure.
You was
Part of the game.
How to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't teach my high school kids how to do it, but I didn't frown on them when they did.
Yeah.
Because that was part of the you break up the double play.
Yeah. And it was one of those unwritten rules that you went in hard. It's not in the rule book that you have to go in hard, but you did it. And if you watch the Sox games, Jerry Remy talks about this all the time. He was a second baseman, and they used to just run right into him and knock him over, and he just got up and dusted himself off.
And you didn't disrespect the guys unless they came in spikes high.
Yeah.
They came in to hurt you that way. But if you crashed into them, you crashed into them. But that's now been changed, and I gather will stay there. I haven't heard much controversy about it.
No, very little. No,
Not complaining about it too much.
not very much. No.
Okay, well, here's the third one, and everybody's familiar with this because this is very new, and it's the instant replay rule. Now, obviously, this could not have happened until there were a lot of TV cameras around.
Right.
I hate to admit my age, but I can remember when there was only 18 televised games in the 50s, usually Sundays, in black and white, with rabbit ears that didn't come in very well. And I would reserve my grandfather's TV and run over there on Sunday afternoon, watch the game, and hope I could see most of it in the fuzzy screens. And now you can see every single game that's televised. You can call them up, you can tape them, they're
Sure.
3D.
DVR them and everything.
So that whole thing is different. But also, the number of cameras in the park has gone from one to multiple cameras everywhere. And if you watched the show that we did with Ron Shannon the last time, he talked about this has brought to the forefront a lot of statistics that weren't available either.
Sure.
How fast the ball leaves the bat and any number of angles that you can see the games from.
Sure.
So by doing that, they've rendered umpiring a safe profession.
Yeah.
Now here's a clip that we want to show now with one of the most notorious bad calls ever made. This was in a game that the Tigers were playing. The poor pitcher was pitching a perfect game.
Andres Galarraga, best game of his career.
And
he's out of the majors now.
Didn't last long after this, but he
Yeah.
had a perfect game on the line, of which there are very, very, very few. And the last batter up hit a roller down to first. And the first baseman lobbed it over to the pitcher. The umpire called him safe. And clearly, when you watch the replay, he was out by a full step.
Sure.
And I think this probably was the play, the
Yes.
impetus. They talked about this for a long time, but this was the impetus to put in instant replay for pretty much everything. And we'll talk about the pros and cons, but let me read you this list of what now can be challenged. It used to be, I really miss.
Well, we'll do the clip first, I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we'll do the
Let's
yeah,
do the clip.
yeah, we'll do the
Let's
clip
do
and
the
then go.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe. He is safe. He is safe at first base. And here comes Jim Leyland. Oh my goodness. Jim Joyce said he was safe at first base. You make the call. Cabrera, Galarraga.
Did he miss the base? He's out. Why is he safe?
He must have missed the base.
Are you kidding me? Why is he safe?
You see right here.
Why is he safe? Oh my goodness, Jim Joyce, no!
Oh, jeez Louise.
Oh my goodness.
What a travesty.
And there you go. And you know what? To his credit, after the game, Jim Joyce came out and talked about how horrible he felt. He was in tears that he blew that call, and he's a good umpire, but unfortunately he's known for that
I
call.
saw it. You know, I saw it as out, but I think perhaps the pressure of it might have not been. I think myself, I think he made the wrong call, and I always felt bad that it wasn't overruled by another umpire.
Yes,
the umpire at home plate could easily have seen it.
Yeah.
It was very clear to everybody, and in the clip, the poor pitcher just standing there.
He's kind of grin on his face, like, what was that?
Kidding me? This is my one chance at Cooperstown, and now I'm just going to Looneyville. You know?
The funny thing is, he's more known for not having the perfect game than having the perfect game now.
That clip is shown over and over.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
sure this wasn't doing anything new. So what they now can do is challenge it. I think the umpires can do their own challenge too in some cases.
Yes,
they don't even show themselves. But you have to come out and make a challenge. Now, well, let's talk about it after, because what's been lost. These are the things you can challenge. Ground rule doubles. Okay, there was just one with the Red Sox a few days ago when the foul line in center field, well, not foul line, the fair line, home run line was hit on a direct shot by Benintendi, and they decided that because it hit the yellow line, it was a ground rule double, even though it came down and hit home run territory. And that was shown over and over again, and they went out and measured it the next day.
Took pictures of it.
That's an example. Ground rule double is one that bounces into the stands instead of going over the stands, or that's one. Fan interference calls. I wish they didn't make parks so fans could interfere. Like, for instance, they have a basket in Wrigley Stadium that catches the balls. Why don't they do that in the wall of Fenway? Have a little jutting out basketball, so if it goes into it, you can't touch it, you can't grab it. Wouldn't be hard to do. But there's too many places where fans can reach in and interfere with plays, in the smaller stadiums especially.
Oh, it just happened a few weeks ago when the Red Sox were playing the Angels. Remember, Daniel Nava came up, and he hit a double down the line, and it bounced in the stands, and actually went the Red Sox way, because that would have been the tying run. And then Kimbrel got the next two guys out, and the Sox won the game. But perfect example, just happened a couple weeks ago.
Okay, boundary calls. There's a parenthesis here. Managers may not, however, challenge home run or potential home run calls. Only the crew chief can decide to review home run calls. If it's initially signaled home run, it's overturned, it should be declared a double, and the runners each advance 2 bases. So a home run call, the manager can't come out and challenge that. I didn't know that.
Yep. And actually, I have a funny thing here about that. Again, a play. One of the plays that was the impetus of getting impartial New York, which we'll get into, that they defer to New York for now. But this was 2013, the first year that they had the replay. There was a game in Oakland. Adam Rosales hit a home run in Oakland, horrible park, by the way, so you'll know what it's like. He hit a railing over the wall, and the ball bounced back onto the field. And, big surprise here, Angel Hernandez blew the call and called it a double. They went and watched the replay, and Hernandez still called it a double. Stubborn guy that he is. And the A's ended up losing the game by that run. They lost 4-3. So that's a perfect example of how the crew chief is in charge of the home run, and nobody can question it.
Now, here's what we were just talking about. Force plays at all bases, except whether a middle infielder touched second base during the attempt to turn a double play, neighborhood play. You can't challenge that.
Right.
Okay. Tag plays on the base paths, whether a runner was tagged or whether the runner touched the base, an appeal is still required ahead of the ladder.
Yes.
Okay. Fair foul balls hit on balls hit into the outfield. What is fair foul?
Not the infield, though.
No,
this is the outfield.
Catch or trap calls on balls hit into the outfield. Well, they clearly caught it yesterday.
Yes, that's right.
Jackie Bradley clearly did not catch a ball. It rolled under his body, and he was called to making the catch, and it was runners running all over the place. It went from a triple play to a man on first and third.
Yeah, it was absolute chaos because, well, one umpire called them safe and one called them out, so the runners had no idea what was going on.
Here's a cool one. Time plays, whether or not a run scored preceding the third out.
That's a cool one. I did not know that one.
I'm thinking how they would do that. They'd stop it frame by frame.
I guess so, to see if he crossed before the third out happened. I didn't know that one.
Whether a runner passed the preceding runner. I would think you'd be able to see that.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
You would think. If he passed it, I suppose in the Olympics they have this much.
Oh, God.
And scorekeeping issues, including the count, See, the other day they lost out.
They had to go to the camera, and they brought the whole crew out. They had the camera and everything. They're trying to figure out.
It's only 3 balls, not 4. The umpire signals, you go to first, the guy ran into first base, and they go, wait a minute.
And Jerry Remy knew right off the bat. He said, it's 2-2. I don't know what they're questioning here. Watch. And they went back and replayed it and had the answer before the umpires did. So it's 2-2. Come on, guys. Let's get going.
Okay. Those are all the things you can challenge. Now, to do that, though, you have to walk out on the field and say, I hereby challenge. You know, in football, they pull a little stupid red flag out of their sock and throw it out of the field.
It's the same idea.
Same idea.
But I don't think even the managers are aware of what you can and can't challenge sometimes, because I've seen them try to challenge things, but you can't do it.
Teams are allowed to have a replay assistant in the booth watch the replay. So they have a little guy in the back room.
Yeah.
He's sort of the assistant for New York.
And you see it go on the phone.
He'll go like this and like this and up and down. Go ahead and challenge.
Usually Butterfield is on the phone like this and up or down, and then they move on.
No. So then, and this is the part that kills me.
Yeah.
All the umpires, at least 2 have to go. The guy that made the call and the crew chief, sometimes all 4, walk over to a dugout. A little man comes out with a box and earphones, and they have a hotline to New York. Now, I have to ask this question. Where in New York do they go? Do they go to the place like ESPN with cameras and things all over the place? Or is this just a little guy named Rudy behind a curtain somewhere that is looking at a thing? He's a little computer nerd. He goes, he was safe. I don't like that guy.
And the funny thing is, they still don't get it right sometimes.
Half the time they come back, and always Jerry and the announcers all say, oh, that's obviously this. He goes, no, you're wrong. What are they looking at? And you know, this is the killer part. If the manager argues with the replay, he's ejected from the game.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, isn't it?
I'm sorry. I'm an old schooler. I loved umpires arguing.
Oh, God, yes.
Where would people like Earl Weaver be if he couldn't argue?
Oh,
Lou
God,
Pinello
Bobby
was the
Cox.
whole show. I love those guys. Lou Pinello would kick his hat, he'd kick the base, he'd throw bases in the stands.
Oh, God.
Arguing with the umpire about stuff is fun, and everybody screams and yells. The all-time one, Carl Yastrzemski got called out on strikes. Now, you didn't call Carl Yastrzemski out on strikes. You didn't do that.
No.
He got 4 strikes when everybody else got 3.
Yes.
He was called on a very questionable call in August, and he was just had it in the afternoon game. He just tossed his hat away, got down his hands and knees and buried home plate. He scooped dirt all around the plate, got up and walked away.
Forget this, I'm out of here. I'm getting...
It was great entertainment.
Oh, and the managers would get their money's worth, too. How many times did Bobby Cox get thrown out and he'd stay on the field another 5 minutes and just yell at the guy?
When you throw me out, you already threw me out.
No, that's another thing that people forget. It's a business, but it's also entertainment.
And it can't be just so squeaky clean about everything.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff is fun.
Well, we just got the Olympics just ended yesterday, and everything there is to the millisecond measured. This, computerized that, which. Okay, you get the call right. Okay, well, I understand that, but it's entertainment, and the manager coming out and arguing calls has been there since the beginning, and it's
fun.
Oh, it really, yeah. Oh God, Earl Weaver was the best in the world at that. He was,
and sometimes they would mic them up.
Oh,
you're a liar, Earl. No, you're a liar. No, you're a liar.
Well, now you'd have to have a quick hand on the censor button for that nowadays, because
the mic will pick everything.
The mic will pick everything up, and when you've been watching as many games as we have, you get very good at lip reading, so you know exactly what they said.
It was part of the fun. I remember in '67, Eddie Stanky was managing the White Sox, and there was a 14 race, and he came out to take the pitcher out, but he was going to argue with the umpire, so he didn't leave the mound.
Yeah.
And the umpire came out, and he started arguing. As a man, 33,000 people stood up and screamed at Stanky for doing that. You suck, you bum, you bum. It was great. It was great entertainment. We all walked away from it and had a good time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Now you watch Rudy figure it out in New York.
Yeah.
Out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just something that, again, if you're old school, it kind of takes away from it. Again, but you get the call right, which, you know, on the side of getting the call right, well, you know what? Ask the 85 Cardinals how they feel about that, or the 96 Orioles how they feel about getting a call right. I mean, the famous one where Jeffrey Mayer reached over and Richie Garcia totally blew the call and out of
Jeter a home run.
And it was Jeter, of course, and out of arrogance because he was Richie Garcia, he didn't change the call, and it was clear that the fan reached over, and that pretty much cost the Orioles the series. I mean, that completely
changed the
next
year, Topps gave Jeffrey Mayer his own baseball card. Yeah. Thanks. This is a Jeffrey Mayer card.
Or, because the Royals won last year, remember in '85 when the Cardinals thought they won,
right.
and I forget the runner, but he was clearly out at first by a step, and the ump called him safe, and the Royals came back for a rally and won. The Cardinals should have won that World Series. So there is an upside that you get calls like that right, and you don't end up kind of messing up one team out of a win. But on the other hand, yeah, it is. It's entertainment. I mean, come on.
And there's one area that they don't have replays for: balls and strikes. And brother, there are some umpires that just on some days have bad days.
If you get Angel Hernandez or C.V. Buckner behind the plate, good luck. Strap yourselves in because it's going to be a long game.
The players even know this guy calls the balls high. This guy calls them low.
Oh yeah.
This guy's always going to give these guys a break, and they call him. And this is really unfair. A rookie doesn't have a chance in the major league.
No.
If he so much as glances back at an umpire, the next 3 pitches are going to be.
Yeah. If it's a foot outside, it's going to be a strike. It's funny because. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, Joe West complained about how long the Red Sox-Yankees games took because, they all take a million pitches. Well, Joe, you also call a strike zone about this big whenever you umpire, right. So you can you kind of have yourself to blame for that. So, and it's so inconsistent from umpire to umpire, game to game. And the perfect example of this is when you watch Greg Maddux pitch. He was a master at manipulating the umpires. Right. He would throw a pitch right on the edge of the strike zone. And if it was a strike, great. If it was a ball, he'd keep throwing it there till the ump called it a strike, and then he'd move it over a little more. A little more. And by the 7th or 8th inning, the strike zone is 6 inches bigger on either side of the plate.
Right.
But and that wouldn't happen with an automated strike zone, but it was great to watch him do that. He was such a master of control that he could get away with that. But when you think about it, balls and strikes affect the game more than any of these other calls we've talked about.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to get automated in one area, that's something to think about.
It would be kind of odd, though, to have just a catcher standing there in the Meeker scoreboard.
Yeah,
as Jerry calls it, the Meeker scoreboard.
Yeah.
It has the little ball and then it just automatically registers.
Yeah.
So how do you argue with that?
You can't argue with it. And that gets into how, Dustin Pedroia is 5'7", Big Papi's 6'4". Right. How do you get a strike zone to adapt to each of them? You'd have to get them
to crop it somehow.
Sure, yeah.
Machine. You have to have some guy manipulate the robot, so that'd be a umpire.
A robot umpire. Yeah, right.
I still don't understand though. Why don't every single team have a official with an instant replay in the booth?
Sure.
And so he watches it. Yeah. That's it. Why do you have to go to Rudy in New York? I just still don't understand.
I don't get that
why
either.
That's necessary.
That's a union thing, maybe. Does that guy get paid as part of the umps union?
I don't know. Wow, a lot of games going on.
Well, that's the thing. Say they get 2 calls at the same time coming in. What do you do? Yeah, I got the Padres and A's. You're gonna have to hang on for a second while I figure this one out.
Football, they don't go to New York, don't they?
No, they go right to the They go right to the camera on the sideline.
Yeah,
he puts the little hood on and looks at the play. Then he comes
now we're going to New York.
Yeah, Ned Hockley comes out and waves his arm.
What if there's bad weather there?
Right.
Brown out or something.
But
I always wonder, why don't they ever show that? Why don't they show the ESPN studios, they show the Nesson studios. Yeah. Have you ever seen New York?
No, it's sort of like Deal or No Deal. The little guy up on the top of the thing, and he's in the dark, and he makes a safer out call.
New York, does that mean New York State, New York City?
It could be in Buffalo. Who knows? It doesn't have to be New York City, right?
We're going to New York.
Some dude in Schenectady hanging out at his computer. Who knows?
Why don't they show us? I want to see Rudy.
That's something we want. But if there's something to work on automating in the game, the balls and strikes is the place to start. I mean, that's really something that is so subjective, and it has been.
But again, though, it's entertainment.
It is, sure.
And it used to be the umpires would call balls and strikes. Now they put a show.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them actually, remember Ron... I can't remember his name. His Italian, Ron Luciano.
Oh, Ron Luciano, yeah.
He used to go...
You're out!
Shoot the guy down at first base. All these wild gestures. Emmett Ashford, the first black
umpire,
would leap off as he ran out the field, leap off the pitcher's mound, and so they're part of the show. Umpires are still entertainment.
And even Joe West is kind of that somehow. When Joe West is the show when he's umpire.
They used to have American League umpires, National League. Now they mix them all up, so you don't see the umpires all that often. You don't get stuck with the same people through long series.
But you used to see the same guys all the time, and you got to know the strike zones and the tendencies of each of them, and again,
we'll see.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how long this lasts. Because one thing we haven't mentioned about is the length of time it takes. There is no time limit. Jerry suggested the other day 90 seconds should be the limit, but there have been 4 or 5 minute delays.
Absolutely.
And meanwhile,
Oh, yeah.
the pitcher's cooling off.
Yeah.
The batter's cooling off. He gets out of his rhythm,
Sure.
and it's boring.
And the fans are getting restless.
Right.
Needless to
And
say.
they show it on the scoreboard, so you
so
know
the fans already know because they showed it up
and
there.
then if they don't, they boo the umpire. It really delays the game a lot. I've seen some of the theories on speeding up the game. We'll just let the guy go to first base on intentional walk.
Yeah.
What does that say? 15, 20 seconds?
And there's an intentional walk every 3-4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
how much is that going to speed the game up?
Nothing.
But just take 10 minutes to have Rudy deal with it. You know,
and I get it. You know, if it's a World Series game or something like that, whatever. That's something different. But a regular season game, it should 90 seconds is a good. Okay, you can't get the call in 90 seconds. It reverts to what it wants.
That's right.
So
how many times can you watch the same camera? Well, now they have 7 different cameras.
Of course.
By this one he's out. By this one he's safe. By this one he's out. Which one do you have to take?
Yeah, but sometimes you get 7 different angles of the guy throwing pizza at somebody else in the stand. So there are good things about having that many cameras.
Well, we'll see. This will be interesting to see how many years they keep this in force or what alterations they make to it, because this is new.
And baseball comes and goes with some of these rules. Remember the year they had the balk rule, and they were insistent that the pitchers had to come to a stop, and there were like 100 balks called in the first 2 weeks of the season. They just let it go because it got ridiculous.
Well, you had to pitch with nobody on base within 20 seconds.
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
That lasted real long. Tell that to John Papelbon, right? I mean, God. So sometimes these rules fade. You know, the league is gung-ho, and then the league realizes it doesn't quite work out the way that they wanted it to. So it kind of falls by the wayside.
In theory, it does. And see, especially as the fans take to it. They don't seem to have any complaints yet about the collisions. No. That seems to be fair enough. And there weren't that many.
No, there wasn't.
Like there were that many.
No.
How many times do you see crashes at home plate?
Not very rarely.
Really.
Very rarely.
And it hadn't been for those 2 key injuries, those 2 players.
And they were star players. That's what it came down to. You know, if it was Sandy Leone that got taken out, I doubt the rule would have changed very much. Well, we don't. Not that we're encouraging that, but.
Well, this year.
This year. Oh, by the way, is he? How many at bats does he need to qualify for the batting title?
300.
Yeah. He's close to Altuve. So.
Okay, well, we hope you enjoyed this show. We have a couple things left to do, though. First, our trivia answer.
Yes.
Eddie Goodell. Right side up. Eddie Goodell was a midget. His number on his back was 1/8. If anybody got that right, pretty clever, huh? I don't know why 1/8.
I don't know. Is an eighth of a person? I don't know.
He was 3'6".
Yep.
And that was his one appearance.
Yep.
Now, ordinarily we end the show here, but I came across an editorial article in the last page of Sports Illustrated 3 weeks ago, which is nothing to do specifically with baseball, but it's about sports. I assume most of the people watching this show are sports fans generally, not just baseball fans as we are. And sports, if you are a sports fan, it's almost hard to fathom how much sports has become the fabric of our lives.
Sure.
So many ways, so many things. And so this article, we just wanted to read it to you because it's clever and it's so true.
And how hard it is to describe to someone who's not a sports fan, someone who doesn't get it, how hard it is to describe someone who isn't into sports. I mean, we just got done watching 2 weeks of the Olympics, whatever, and some people just had no interest in it, which I can't fathom. I think that's so cool to watch 2 weeks of sports.
But on the other hand, where else are you going to get to see water polo?
Yeah, right,
Prime time.
Prime time water polo.
Water polo.
Yeah.
Can't beat that.
And you watch naked divers and volleyball players. I mean, where else are you going to get that?
Your favorite women's volleyball on the beach.
Yeah, you get it every 4 years, enjoy it. So anyway, here...
This article is the last page of Sports Illustrated. It's called The World Without Mookies.
By Steve Russian.
By Steve Russian. Sports aren't perfect, but they're the best thing man has yet devised to make marching band music palatable. Without sports, your local news and weather at 11 would be followed by nothing. And given how terrifying the news and the weather are in 2016, a world without sports hardly bears imagining. But let's imagine it anyway. Because sports never existed, you seldom hear the national anthem. The plural of maple leaf is maple leaves. And hail is only ever compared to citrus fruits.
Without sports, Wrigley is just a gum. Wimbledon is just a neighborhood, and NFL only resonates as the Amtrak station code for Niagara Falls. Without sports, you know far fewer Mickeys and not a single Mookie. Without sports, you have to drink 16 Bud Lights to drink $9 worth of Bud Light. Been to Fenway, right? Now it's $9 for one. Sudden death is something dreaded rather than looked forward to. In this benighted world without sports, an anonymous senior citizen named Arnold Palmer always orders a half iced tea and half lemonade instead of the me. Without sports, you don't know Dick, because Dick has no sporting goods to sell. Without sports, you haven't a clue how to pronounce Krzyzewski or Tuiasosopo or Monkengodblock. 60 Minutes always airs on time. The T-shirt cannon has never been conceived, much less joyously discharged, and Drake has nowhere to go tonight.
Without sports, 406 means nothing. Belly itcher isn't even a word, and that one Spice Girl was known as physically fit Spice. Without sports, Wheaties is the breakfast of actuaries, and Formula One is the first of many failed predecessors to Formula 409. Without sports, there are no baseball caps, no drawstring sweatpants, no striped tube socks, no high-top Chuck Taylors, no threadbare T-shirts that say, "Tommy is my homie," which is another way of saying that without sports, I'm naked right now. Without sports, at least some people who say, I would be dead or in prison without sports are dead or in prison. Without sports, a pair of orderlies, speaking in soothing tones, gently lead Skip Bayless away when they find him arguing with a lamppost.
ESPN reference for those who watch the show. Without sports, there's nothing special about the first Saturday in May, the first Sunday in February, or the entire month of March. Friday night is not lit. Separation Saturday and Selection Sunday are Saturday and Sunday, respectively. Mr. October is the exclusive perverse of plaguers. Perverse of plaguers. Preserve.
I knew we'd screw one.
Yeah, I know. Mr. October is the exclusive preserve of Playgirl. Without sports, you wear a regular bra. Well, I don't, but women do. Without sports, you wear a regular bra and drive a regular utility vehicle to get a regular haircut at whatever they decided to call sports clips instead. All your heroic maladies, your athlete's foot, your jock itch, your sports hernia, are now just embarrassing afflictions, stripped of their gladiatorial implications.
Without sports, man's crowning achievements, slow motion replay, sausage races, and the Zamboni were never crowned. Our great philosophers, Satchel Paige, Casey Stengel, Lawrence Berra, were never heard, and Huey Lewis and the News had nothing to call their third album.
Sports.
Thank you. Yeah. True, a word without sports is not all bad. Tax money goes to education instead of billionaires. PED scandals aren't a thing. And you haven't had to hear Rock and Roll Part 2 in 44 years. Mercifully, the golf joke does not exist. And yet, without sports, you've never eaten anything out of a plastic batting helmet. The actor Michael B. Jordan goes by Michael Jordan because he's the only Michael Jordan anyone's heard of. No one ever sings Where Have You Gone, Joe DiMaggio, because Joe DiMaggio never arrived in the first place. There's no Cooperstown, no Coliseum, no Caddyshack. Come on, no Caddyshack. Without sports, Jackie Robinson, Babe Ruth, Sandy Koufax, Gale Sayers, Terry Bradshaw, Lynn Swann, and Fran Tarkenton, and Steph Curry all elicit the same response. I never heard of her. Without sports, you never played catch with your dad, or horse, H-O-R-S-E, with your daughter. You never played ping pong, or beer pong, or just pong with your buddies. Your life has had 90% less confetti and not a single champagne shower. Without sports, we live in a joyless, Gronkless, Fosbury flop-free world. It's Indianapolis without the 500, Manchester without the United. Life is a lot drearier. And do you believe in miracles is no longer a rhetorical question. This is Pete Lincoln,
Jason Smith,
saying we'll see you in August.
see you at the ballpark.
Thank you for watching another outstanding program provided to you by Lunenburg Public Access. We're here to serve the community. Lunenburg Public Access is always looking for volunteers to help record town events, high school sports, and town meetings. Please consider helping us out today. To contact us, you can call 617-763-3018 or email us at lunenburgaccess@gmail.com. Thank you.